Welcome back to Mr. DuPage's classroom. This video is for my Algebra 2 class. It is Intercept Form Day 2, which is really just review. Okay, Intercept Form. It is in the form of y equals a times x minus p times x minus q. So in this equation, if a is greater than 0, our parabola opens up. If a is less than 0, our parabola opens down. Remember that our x-intercepts are going to be the opposite of p, comma 0, and the opposite of q, comma 0. The vertex is halfway in between, the x-intercepts. So that means to find my axis of symmetry, I'm going to take p plus q and divide by 2. I'm just going to take the average of those two. To find the y-coordinate of the vertex, I'm going to take the x value and substitute it back in the equation. Whoops. Substitute it back in the equation. All right, why don't you go ahead and try number 1 and number 2 on your own. Take some time, pause the video, give it a shot. Let's see how you can do. Remember all your steps. You need to say whether the parabola opens up or down. You need to tell me the x-intercepts, the axis of symmetry, my y value, my vertex, my table, my domain and range, and then you need to graph it. Do not forget about your axis of symmetry on the graph. That is the dotted vertical line. Go ahead and pause the video, give it a shot. Let's see how you can do. All right, let's look at number 1. Well, the first thing is, will the graph open up or down? My a value, since there's nothing out there, I can always put a 1 in there. So this graph will open up because that is a positive 1. Okay. The next step is to find my x-intercepts. It'll be the opposite of 3 and the opposite of 5. So it'll be negative 3, 0, and negative 5, 0. The next step is to do the work to start finding my vertex. So the first step is to find my axis of symmetry. So x will equal, it's p, so negative 3, plus q, which is negative 5, divided by 2. Well, negative 3 minus 5 is negative 8 over 2. Negative 8 over 2 is the same thing as negative 8 divided by 2, so this would be negative 4. Okay. Now I need to find my y value for my vertex, so I'm going to take negative 4 and plug it back into my equation for that x and for that x. Okay. So I would have negative 4 plus 3 times negative 4 plus 5. Well, negative 4 plus 3 is negative 1. Negative 4 plus 5 is positive 1. So my y value will be negative 1. That means my vertex is just my x value, so negative 4, and my y value, so negative 1. From here, it's the same thing that we did when we had vertex form or standard form. We just go ahead and make our table. So we'll have x and y. Put the vertex in the center. Add 1 as I go to the right, so minus 3. Add 1, so minus 2. Subtract 1, minus 5. Subtract 1, whoops. That should say subtract, not add. See if I can get rid of that. Yep. So we're going to subtract 1 there. So minus 6. I'm going to take negative 3 and plug it back in the equation. So I would have negative 3 plus 3 times negative 3 plus 5. Well, negative 3 plus 3 is 0. Negative 3 plus 5 is 2. Anytime I multiply by 0, I'll end up with 0. So that is negative 3, 0. The next step is to take the negative 2, plug it back in. So it'll be negative 2 plus 3 times negative 2 plus 5. Negative 2 plus 3 is 1. Negative 2 plus 5 is 3. So that will be 3. Just like in every other form that we've done so far, if it's here, it can also go there. And if it's here, it can also go there. So I have my table. All I have to do now is go ahead and plot it. So negative 1, negative 4, negative, whoops, I screwed that up, didn't I? It'll be negative 4, negative 1, I'm sorry. Be negative 3, 0. It would be negative 5, 0. Be negative 2, positive 3. And it would be negative 6, positive 3. Go ahead and plot those points. Connect them together. Do not forget your dotted vertical line at your axis of symmetry. The last step is my domain and range. My domain, as always, is all real, and my range is y. Remember that the number is just going to be your y from your vertex. If it opens up, that means it's greater than or equal to, and we are done with that problem. Number 2, do not freak out because your a value is negative 2. It will not come into play until you are working through plugging numbers back into the equation. But since my a value is negative, that's my a value, since that is negative, what we're going to do is say that the graph opens down. Okay? The x-intercepts, again, are the opposite of that number and the opposite of that number, so it'll be 3, 0 and negative 1, 0. To find my axis of symmetry, I will use 3 and negative 1. So x equals 3 minus 1 because it's 3 plus negative 1, right? It's the same thing as 3 minus 1. Divide that by 2. 3 minus 1 is 2. Divided by 2. That'll give me 1. So my y value, I need to take the 1 and plug it back into the equation. Here is where that negative 2 will come into play. It'll be 1 minus 3 and 1 plus 1. That will give me negative 2 times 1 minus 3 is also negative 2. 1 plus 1 is positive 2. So negative 2 times negative 2 times positive 2 would get me positive 8. So my vertex is going to be 1, positive 8. Moving on, after I find my vertex, I always just go ahead and make a table. What do I put in the center? My vertex. Going to the right, I add 1, so 2. Add 1, so 3. Going to the left, I subtract 1, so 0 and negative 1. From here, I need to put the 2 right here back in the equation, so it'll be negative 2 times 2 minus 3 times 2 plus 1. Be negative 2 times negative 1 times 3. Well, negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2. Positive 2 times 3 will equal 6. Okay? Next step, I need to take my 3 and plug it back in the equation for all the x's. So negative 2 times 3 minus 3 times 3 plus 1. Negative 2. Well, 3 minus 3 is 0. 3 plus 1 is 4. Anytime you multiply by 0, it's just going to be 0. Okay? So this would actually equal 0. Now that I have my table complete, I can go ahead and plot my points. 1, 8, 2, 6, 0, 6, 3, 0, negative 1, 0. I'm hoping at this point, after we've been working on graphing for, about a week and a half or so, that you guys can plot points from a table. Do not forget your vertical dotted line, which is your axis of symmetry. Okay? And my domain is all real. My range is y. Remember, I'm going to use this number for my vertex, so that is 8. The graph opens down, so that means it's going to be less than or equal to 8. Well, that is the entire video. This was a review from what we have been doing. This is day 2, so it was from yesterday. If you have any questions about any part of this, please make sure you ask, and have a great day.